7 senior Israeli military officers gone in a single strike. And the missile that killed them, nobody could stop it. Not Arrow, not THAAD, not Patriot. 10 interceptors were launched, and every single one of them failed. This was not just a military event, this was a moment that shook the very foundations of modern warfare. Picture a heavily fortified IDF command center. Underground, reinforced walls with some of the most advanced air defense systems on the planet standing guard above it. This place was built to survive, and then Iran sent a single weapon straight through all of it, without slowing, without stopping, and it tore through everything. Video footage captured the moment an Iranian hypersonic glide vehicle slammed into that command center, ending the lives of 7 senior officers inside. That weapon is called the Fatah II, a hypersonic missile system developed by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, built as the successor to the Fatah I. Its name in Persian means conqueror, and after what it did to that command center, that name no longer feels like just a word. To understand why the Fatah II is so different, you first have to understand what it is not. Conventional missiles follow a predictable path. They go up, trace an arc through the sky, and come back down. Radar systems track that arc, computers calculate where the missile will land, and interceptors are sent to meet it mid-flight. That is the entire logic on which multi-billion-dollar air defense systems are built. The Fatah II does not work that way. Instead of a predictable arc, it deploys a hypersonic glide vehicle, a maneuverable payload that weaves through the atmosphere at extreme speeds, shifting direction, pivoting course, all while traveling between Mach 13 and Mach 15. That is between 15.0 and 18.0 kilometers per hour. At that speed, a missile launched from Western Iran can reach targets across much of the Middle East in under 10 minutes. 10 minutes to detect, confirm, decide, and intercept while the missile is actively changing its course the entire time. The engineering challenge behind building something like this is almost impossible to overstate. The surface temperature of a hypersonic glide vehicle exceeds 0 degrees Celsius. Composite materials crack under that kind of stress. Maintaining guidance and control at those conditions is a problem that only a handful of nations on Earth have ever solved, and yet Iran solved it. Here is the part that hits hardest. After the strike, after 10 interceptors had failed, and 7 Israeli generals were dead, the person who called this missile essentially unstoppable was not an Iranian general. It was an Israeli defense executive. Yuval Bassi, vice president of Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, the Israeli company that builds many of the very interceptors that were fired at this missile, went on public record to say that the Fatah II had forced both his firm and the IDF to completely rethink their entire approach to missile defense. He said, hypersonic missiles have opened a new era in air defense, and that traditional methods simply cannot be relied on against them. And then he offered an analogy that is very hard to forget. He said, trying to intercept a hypersonic missile with a single interceptor is like defending LeBron James with one player. You can chase him all you want, but you are not going to stop him from scoring. That is Israel's own defense industry telling the world, in plain language, that the missile they are now facing is under current conditions essentially unguardable. The deeper strategic meaning is this: for decades, Israeli military doctrine rested on a foundational assumption that fortified, hardened command infrastructure could survive. You build deep underground, you reinforce the walls, you stack layers of air defense on top, and your command structure remains intact even through a major conflict. The Fatah II struck directly at that assumption. It found a specific fortified building, maneuvered through every layer of defense, and hit with enough precision to kill 7 senior officers inside all of this at Mach 15. This was not just speed. This was precision at speed, and that combination is what makes it so dangerous. The Fatah II made its combat debut on March 1st, 2026. It had never been used in battle before that day. When the United States and Israel launched a coordinated military assault against Iran, Iran reached into its arsenal and pulled out a weapon the world had not yet seen in action. The very first time it was fired in combat, 7 Israeli generals were dead. And the IDF command center was not the only target. American military installations in Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait were struck during the same period. This was not a test. This was a message. Now comes the question everyone is asking: what can actually be done about it? And the answer is far less satisfying than anyone would want. Building a new defense system capable of handling hypersonic threats takes years and tens of billions of dollars. This is not something you fix overnight. The engineering cannot be rushed. And in the meantime, while the conflict is unfolding today, Israel has no reliable answer. Analysts are pointing to one uncomfortable conclusion: if you cannot stop the missile in the air, the only real option is to destroy the launcher on the ground before it fires. And that means offensive operations inside Iran. That means a completely different level of escalation. Zoom out further and the picture becomes even more unsettling. Russia has the Oreshnik. China has the DFZF. North Korea has been testing its own hypersonic glide vehicles. And now Iran has confirmed its place in that group with the Fatah II's combat debut. These technologies are not developing in isolation. Knowledge is being shared, and what Iran demonstrated is a product of that broader global environment. The real message here is this If a nation under severe sanctions, under constant military pressure, operating outside the mainstream of global defense technology, can develop and successfully deploy a hypersonic glide vehicle that penetrates Israeli and American air defense systems, what does that mean for the rest of the world? It means the rules of the game have changed. It means the multi-billion-dollar interceptor programs are less reliable than governments have been telling their citizens. And it means American bases across the Gulf, in Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait are now operating with the knowledge that Iran holds a weapon capable of striking them with high precision and a near-zero chance of being stopped. One strike, one missile, 7 generals, and the collapse of a doctrine that took decades to build. That is what the Fatah II did on its very first day in combat. The answers are not clear yet. The response is not defined yet. But the question has been fired at Mach 15 straight into the walls of a command center that was never supposed to fall.